count up in hundreds modulo 1,000. So again, that's going to be very similar to this record, only it's going to increment by 100 and it's going to be modulo 1,000. But its scan field is going to be 10 seconds. So pretty straightforward. And lastly, we can have record 4. And this is going to get the 3 inputs from the 3 other records. It itself is going to be passive. It's going to force record 2 to process when it gets its input by using the PP qualifier. It monitors record 3 and processes when it gets sent an update. And to do that, we're going to use the CP qualifier. The calculation is just going to sum all 3 inputs, and it's going to enter the high major alarm state when the sum is greater than 800. Sounds hard, it isn't really that hard. And like before, and I'll run through this as you run through this, the notes are available by typing the command exercise on ex_notes2. And if you get really stuck with the database, if you go ex_notes2b, you'll get a pre-prepared database. So try and hold off on that and try doing the exercise on your own without resulting to the crib sheet in the notes in 2b. Has anyone got any questions before we proceed? No? Okay. Well, I think we should, I'm going to do the exercise with you. You can follow along, jump in with any questions as we go along. Oh, EX notes. Oh, before we go, remember that command I said ref? That will find you the record reference manual. It's just a script I wrote, launches perforce, points at the record reference manual. It's well worth a read. It goes into a lot more detail as some of the topics I've covered. And then, so there's some general information here. And then there's a list of all the records in the record reference manual. We're going to be looking at the calculation record, so you can click on that. And you can read about it. You can read about all the input fields, the values, the fields. These are the algebraic operations available. These are the trigonometry operators available. These are the relational operators, the logical operators, the bitwise operators. I only spotted this the other day. This is some sort of assignment operator. I've never used that. That might be interesting to experiment with, but this exercise doesn't need that. So I'm going to close that, but you might want to keep it open.
Hey, Andy.
Hello, Terry.
Is there a description of the exercise anywhere that we can leave posted up? Because I can't remember what it was.
Oh, well, if you look at the notes.
In X notes 2?
X notes 2, it's pretty much that again. So you can go backwards and forwards. It kind of tells you what to do. Yeah, we can't, but yeah, sorry. Do you want me to?
No, that's fine. Did you offer a challenge of some sort to modify the database outside of the notes? Or?
Yes, do feel free to experiment. All I'd say is I've got a UI file, and we'll try and make one, but I've got a prepared one. So try and keep the PV names
same as that. Oh, so the exercise was just to do that notes 2, not to modify it in a way that you just described.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
I thought you were offering a challenge to take that notes 2 and extend it.
Oh yeah, do want to try stuff? Definitely try stuff.
Okay, so that's what I was looking for. I think you described stuff to try.
Stuff to try, yes, but And do play and experiment. I'd encourage that, but I'd say keep the record names unchanged.
Okay.
Or maybe add extra ones if you want to be more adventurous.
Sure.
And the point of this is to learn a little bit about the calc record, to learn a little bit about for input links and the PP for process passive and the CP for monitoring.
Okay. Would you humor me and go back to your slides again for a few seconds?
Yeah, absolutely, Terry. Okay, let's. And this is where we need more stuff, eh? So let's go to there and let's go back. Exit. So exercise 2. So basically, we're going to create four records.
Yep.
One will be an analog input record that we're going to write to kick things off, because when we write to that, it'll also process. Oh, maybe that should be an analog out. My bad. We'll see how it goes. Well, we're going to have a couple of calc records. 2 are going to count up modulo. One's going to count up. It doesn't really matter. They're both going to count up modulo some number in some sort of sensible increment. One of them is going to be passive, and we're going to force that to process using the PP qualifier. And the other one is going to process it on its own, and we're going to monitor it using the CP qualifier. And then the last record is just going to add all the 3 numbers together. And
okay, so exercise notes 2 covers the creation of those records.
Yes,
but with no detail. So none of the counting, none of the processing.
It's got 2's got is kind of brief. 2B's got the solution. Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay, now I get it. All right, thank you.
Yeah, and so if I was to do 2B, it says, yeah, this is the answer I came up with, yes. But we won't look at that yet. So you go through exercise 2, and I think we'll, in terms of time, when's our next break, Andresh?
In an hour.
Okay, well, I'll go through it with you. I'll go it slow. You can follow on behind me. If you can't keep up, that's fine. I'll have to answer questions. Initially, I was going to do it, then let you do it. But if you want to, I'll start. And if you want to wait till the end, that's fine. Or if you want to sort of keep up, do it as I do it, that's also fine. And I won't rush through it. I will go nice and slow. So we're going to. First of all, we're going to go to the home directory. I suppose we don't have to do this, but let's go to the home directory. We're going to create our top directory with makedir. And then we're going to cd into the makedir. And then we're going to do make base app. -T for the type, IOC is the type, exercise 2.
Sorry, Andy, can you remind me again, why do you run that make base app twice? One with the -B, one with the I -B.
Okay, good question. So, good. It's empty now. So if we do, I'm going to copy it. So we do make base app. We've got a tree. We've got the configure directory, the exercise 2 application directory, and the make file. Now, if I do make base app -IOC that creates the boot directory. And so I'm going to use exercise 2. Now if I do LL, we now have an IOC boot directory. And if we do tree, so it does a little bit extra. So you can see there's a lot more from the first tree to the second tree.
So when you said the boot directory, I mean, because beforehand we just went to the binary, I think it was, and launched the. Oh no, we went to that.
We went, yeah, we went to ISC boot, ISCX, and that's the boot directory, effectively where
Yeah.
the command ends up.
Okay. Yep.
And it also made some. So if you look in the first tree, there was a database file. Okay, there was some source. I think, did it create anything? No, that's pretty much the same, yeah. So basically, the -i creates the this boot directory and the exercise, the subdirectory, and the sd.command file.
So, David, I think the way we're doing it here, having an application and an IOC boot directory all in one project, if you want to call it that way, that's not the only way to do EPICS. So you could just have the app stuff, and you would use that to create a library, and then have an entire different project which would have an IOC directory and an app stuff, which would then include this library that you created in the first one. So you would end up with two projects. One would only have the app stuff, and the other one would have app and IOC boot. So that's why you don't have to have both at the time.
Yeah.
So is that so that like the other one might just use it for the connectivity, for the communications? It's not actually running as its own.
Yeah. So an intermediate, like the motor record, for example, is an application. But it's not an IOC, so it doesn't need a boot directory.
Yeah.
So if you look at it, there probably is a boot directory because there's probably a test IOC which exists, and the test IOC will have a boot directory, but you don't. In principle, you don't need a boot directory for a support module. And so, I mean, I could say, oh, I want to. I mean, I could. In principle, I could go. I could have another application here. I'm not going to use it. It exists, and maybe but I'm not going to create an IOC, an EPICS IOC associated with exercise 43. It's only going to be exercise 2. So you could have as many apps in there as you want, but you only need the boot directory for the IOC. If that makes sense, for the EPICS IOC. Yeah, so applications are used to create all sorts of things. They're homes for IOCs proper, they're homes for databases and substitution files, and they're homes for support modules like the motor record or state machines, or we haven't really talked about the subroutine record, but that itself would live in an app directory. Okay. Let's get rid of that to avoid confusion. So we've created the boot directory tree, and there you go. And there's a subdirectory under the boot directory, IOC exercise 2. In principle, though I've never done it other than as an exercise, you could have 2 subdirectories in there. You could have 2 boot directories running in this, or 2 IOCs sharing the same top directory. We don't do that as a rule, but in principle, you could do that. Okay. So like before, we're going to go into this app directory and we're going to create our database file. Okay, so I'm going to do code today, or for this exercise, code DB.
Or you can just open the entire.
And I've selected the white background. I installed the EPICS doodahs. I mean, whichever editor you use, if you can find some way of tailoring it, it's really good. And then I'm going to cut and paste this because you can do the same thing. This is like a framework of what we talked about, but it's kind of up to you to fill in a little bit of the detail. If Okay, there you go. So I'm going to let you play with that. I'm going to, then I'll come back and start filling in some stuff. So it's there's lots of guidance in there. The records are predefined with their names. Some clues what to do. Some optional stuff to do, and finally, this is the final calc record. And again, there's some instructions there what to do, which effectively replicate what was in the slides.
Sorry, Andrew, just a question.
Yeah.
Was there anywhere in X Notes 2 where you say what Rec 4 is supposed to be? There's a forward link to Rec 4, but then I can't seem to find anywhere in the notes that actually define what you wanted Rec 4 to be.
Well, here's a first mistake. That should be Rec 4.
Oh, yep.
Just out of interest, if you declare 2 Rec 3s, I think you might get a warning these days, but EPICS is quite happy to have 2 records with the same name. And I think it's first in best dressed. So it'll end up being a calc record. If this clashes, it'll give you a warning. But this one could define the scan field, and if this was still Rec 3, it could define the UGU field. It's not something I do as a rule, but you can do it.
Would it just have redefined it, or would it have like appended to it?
It'll redefine it, or I can't remember. Oh, here's an exercise you can try. Define 2 Rec 3s. Is it the first one takes priority? Is it first in best dressed or last in best dressed? I can't remember. It's not something I do as a rule. I think it's confusing to have two separate record 3s, in this case, contributing towards the record. I think it's just confusing, but you can do it. But I can't remember whether the first one takes priority over the second one or the other way around. But it'll be a replacement as opposed to a appending, in the sense that, or you can define extra fields, so you can, in that sense, you can append more stuff. But if both instances of the records define the same field, they won't try and merge them. One of them will take priority. Okay.
Do we have to run make again if we edit that that typo to remove the?
Well, yes. If I didn't say that, but once you've finished editing the file, and we're going to have to add this to the make file. But if you have to edit the file, you essentially have to go to the top directory and re-hit make.
Right. Yep. Thanks.
Okay. You playing along, Andresh?
No.
Oh, okay. Sort of. That was easy. Well, I don't have to use A.
Well, it says so in your instructions.
Oh, yes, okay. I'm ignoring my own instructions. I'm using input D. Just because I can. sure I like this auto popping up thing. Is there a way to turn that off?
Probably. Have a look at the.
Okay. Okay. Could do that.
Oh yeah.
And
It pops up. It helps you.
it does. It does. Okay. Well, the purist might say, but it only goes up to 9. But certainly on a strip chart or a meter, especially if it was, let's say, 0 to 99, the meter looks a lot neater if it goes 0 to 100, even though you only go 0 to 99. Depending on how smart the meter is. I know the strip chart will go 0 to 99. Oh, that's bugger that. We'll just go 0 to 100.
Okay.
Otherwise, yeah, it just looks better. Of course, I can copy and paste that. But let's do this. How's everyone getting on? Or are you just watching me? That's what I like, not having an audience. You can't tell if, people are probably watching, the footy on the Firefox or whatever. Yeah.
I don't know. Or coding away.
Coding away, busily coding away. Like that. So as you highlight that, it finds all the instances. Okay. Well, that's sort of nice, isn't it?
Sorry? Oh, the highlighting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that.
There are a lot of things that IDEs can do now compared to K-Write.
Yes. Can you define your own extensions to this if you define your own record types?
Yeah, I think you should be able to write it.
Okay, excellent. So this is going 100. I would say adopt a consistent style for your records. Pick a standard indentation, doesn't really matter what, but I think it helps if they're consistently laid out.
So, sorry, Andy, does that, sorry, you've got record 3 referring back to record 3 as input A.
Yes, and that's quite legal. So, and when the record processes, if you look at the details of how this record processes, the first thing it does is, or one of the first things it does is go to all its inputs and get the value. So if we look at record 2 that I finished, so the default value for this record is 0, so it'll get 0 for input D, and the calculation is D plus 1 modulo or remainder 10. So this record will just count up 0 to 9. It's quite legal to have your own record as an input in the calc record. Does that answer your question, Dave?
Does that
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, so it's more of a case of the order of processing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that cause it to process again, the fact that its input has just changed?
Well, no, because it's not PP.
Okay.
But if you did put PP on there, the EPICS would say, hey, I can't process record 3 because it's already processing. So it effectively ignores the PP qualifier. What would be bad is to do MS, maximize severity, because until the record processes, it's invalid. And since its input is invalid, this record will become invalid. And then next time round, it'd still be invalid. It'd still count up perfectly well, but it'd be sort of invalid. At least I think it would be. I've never really tried that. Oh, one thing I've forgotten to do is a nice comment.
Sorry, Andre, I'm not sure if you already it was covered by the last question just then.
Yeah.
But the default value being 0, is that because it's set by the lower operating
No.
PR, or is that just
No.
default 0?
It is. It's just what it is. If you look in the DBD file that we looked in this morning for the calc record and the val field, I'm pretty sure it says the default value is 0. And most numerical values, the default value is 0. So for the alarm thresholds, the dead bands, the values, the high and low, the drive high, drive lows, can't think of off the top of my head an instance where the default numerical value isn't 0, but it's not, I wouldn't guarantee that. The default value for strings is an empty string.
Sorry.
Yeah, this here is really it's a bit of guidance to a display manager to say expect the range of values from this record to be in the range 0 to 10.
So because the default is 0, though, if your lower operating number was higher than that by default, say it was a 1, what would it display? Would that send an error, or would that?
No, it wouldn't be an error. It just, I mean, for example, we don't have them so much now, but some of the GUIs have widgets that look like old-fashioned analog meters. And an analog meter has, it's got to go from, let's say, 0 to 50 or 10 to 100, yes? And the GUI would use the Lopper and Hopper value to say, yeah, this meter goes from, let's say, 10 volts to 100 volts. And that's fine, but if the value is less than 10 volts, the needle would be off the scale, or maybe it'd be bound by the 10 value, depending on the widget. So it's purely a guidance to the display manager of the expected range of values. But other than that, it has no impact on the actual range of values.
Okay, yep. Thank you.
But there is I'm going to make this an analog out record as opposed to an analog in. Okay, what's the difference? Not a lot. Because it's analog out, I can define drive low fields. And
Can you explain the differences between outs and ins?
a little, I think we'll get to that.
Okay.
Did we go over all the record types? I'm sure I've got some slides about all the different.
Yeah.
Yeah. VRVH, drive high. Output records like analog out and long out, they have these drive high, drive low fields, which they do clamp the range of values allowed to be written. Well, they don't clamp the range of values to be written to the record, but they clamp the value that will be processed. So in this record, if I was to write a value of 204 to this record, it would get clamped to 200. And that really does restrict the value that this record can process in the range 0 to 200. Okay, so I was on record. How's everyone getting on? Okay, define the calculation. FIELD. So that one comes up. Okay. Oh, really? I hit save. That was a worry. Okay. Now I'm going to copy and paste this because I often copy and paste bits of stuff from things I've done before. Saves me looking it up. Saves me thinking about it again. And then the last record. Okay. I find that quite distracting.
Other thing popping up.
Yeah. Okay. So you get used to it. We've got 3 inputs. 1, 2, 3. 4 structured processing process qualifier. Use the CA monitor. Okay. Okay.
Hey, Andy, when you got a second.
Yeah.
In record 4,
Yeah.
the field input B and input C,
Yeah.
you've got PP as a qualifier on one and CP as a qualifier on the other.
Yeah.
What's the effect of having those different?
Well, the effect is, and what I'm going to show is that when this record processes, it'll, when for whatever reason, it'll force record 2 to process. And this record itself can process either because record 1 F4 links to it, or because record 3 just processes it off its own accord. I'm not saying this is particularly a realistic example. It's definitely a more demonstrative example.
I guess my question was more along the lines of why is one PP and one CP?
For training exercises.
So are they more or less equivalent in this case? Could either of
in effect, yes. We're making record 3. Oh, I'm not sure I did that. Record 3 is scanning on its own, so it won't respond to a PP because it's not passive.
Gotcha.
It's scanning it, but because we're monitoring it, record 3 will send updates to record 2, record 4, sorry, and then record 4 will start processing, and then when it fetches the value from record 2, it'll force record 2 to process because record 2 is passive.
Gotcha.
Ooh. Count 0 to count. It's weird. If I do Control S, it forces me to do a replace, whereas if I just do File Save, it just saves it. Maybe it's an artifact of the going through.
You sure you're not doing Control Shift S?
Oh, maybe I was. Nope.
Nope.
That's kind of, well,
I mean, I haven't experienced that.
2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. Okay. Oh, and then the calculation. The calc is straightforward. Well, it's just a sum. I suppose it doesn't really matter for this exercise. You could do something different. A plus B plus C. And then we said we were going to go to I think we said we'd go into the high alarm state at 800, yes? So let's do, of course you can do the high alarm state or you can try the low alarm state, doesn't really matter for this. I encourage you to try something else. Let's do high at 800.
It's not happening.
High severity will make minor. I can't remember what the instruction said. It might have been major. It doesn't really matter. And it helps if you spell it correctly. File, save. That's weird. Okay, how's everyone got on? Is anyone struggling? Any questions?
I was actually just looking for documentation on the PP and CP.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find it within the ref documentations. Would you ever remember roughly where they were?
No, and I remember reading, when I read it, it wasn't in the reference manual, it was in the ISC Developer's Guide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've got some URLs on the last slide which take you to the EPICS websites, and from there you can kind of look around for documentation.
No problems. Yeah, I just thought I couldn't find it. I was just like, oh, good.
Yeah.
I think, hang on.
That should be 4. Okay, I can't change it. Okay. Let's put that to one side.
Okay. Oh, that's the thing, because it's only mentioned.
It's part of the reason I mentioned it today is it's something I didn't find out about till 3 or 4 years, all these afterwards, and I thought, well,
Which one?
the CP one, for example, and I thought it would have been nice if someone had told me about that.
I didn't know that you can use PP on an input link.
Yeah, you can. Yes, okay, yeah. So you can use these on input links and output links. Bit weird using CP on an output link, but
I'll put a link to the. There you go, passive scanning.
But I suppose PP is one of the more common ones. CP is useful because, I mean, there might be a database on a third-party IOC where you can't go in and add in a forward link. But again, you want to monitor that IOC and process it when the PV changes. So by doing the CP, you get to process when it changes.
What about CPP?
Yes, CPP, I couldn't get my head around that.
There's NPP as well?
We've talked about NPP.
Okay.
I tried the CPP, it didn't make sense to me, and even when I tried it, which I think is a good way of learning.
It might be helpful when we go back to the slides, just to go back to that one, just to remind what
they all are. I'm going to close this. I've completed my exercise, and then we'll go back to the slide. Okay, let's close that. Okay, so it's all there. Well, hopefully I've done it right. We'll soon find out. And slides escape. So this is a summary of the link qualifiers.
Oh, there you go. Never used it. Perfect. I'm just reading on that, on CPP, and it says, if the input link specifies CPP, it causes the record to be processed if and only if the record with the CPP link has a scan field set to passive.
Okay, but when? Because when this record you're referencing, if it's passive.
Yeah, I think the PP actually processes it every time. Whereas CPP only does it if the record is actually
passive. So if the record isn't passive, then it says, I'm going to ignore you, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that sort of makes sense.
I don't know where the C comes from.
C it'll be a channel access link, because it's got to do a CA monitor to get the update. I'm going to get some water. I'll be back in a minute or two.
I'd have to say that's kind of the opposite of my understanding of what PP does. I thought PP was process if passive, not process regardless. So yeah, the whole CP, PP, CPP could do with some better explanation.
Yes.
in the docs, it's it's a case of try one. If that doesn't work, try the other one.
Yeah, it just says if it's set to PP, it will be processed before the value is returned. It doesn't matter if it's set to passive or not, you just process it.
Yeah, and I saw another comment, perhaps from an earlier version of the docs, where it says CP or CPP will force the record that contains the link to be processed when a monitor occurs.
Yes.
That is, if the record is process passive.
Yeah.
So it's all over the shop.
Yeah. I mean, if a record is not passive, then a lot of these things won't happen. So
yes.
Yes. Just size 2. Talk about that. Talk about that. When do I talk about records? Did I go over the available records in EPICS Space? Ah, yes, I did. I don't remember covering this. Maybe I skipped over it. Can anyone remember if I went over this slide this morning?
Slide looks familiar, but I can't remember you talking about it.
Okay, well, it's just going over some of some of the more commonly used records out of EPICS space. I'll just witter on a bit about it. I'm sure I must have skipped over it this morning. Talked about records and fields, and then we talked about common. Yeah, I must. So analog in, analog out, for inputting, outing, double values, BI, BO for binary values, Boolean. You can define your own enum fields associated with that. So you can define it to be set and clear, on and off, left and right, whatever is applicable. Long in, long outs, signed 32-bit integers. String in, string out for 39 character strings. These are relatively new ones, int 64 in and int 64 out. There's a signed 64-bit value, cut and paste error there. But if you try and access them by channel access, it'll use a double, because channel access doesn't support 64-bit integers. So it'll do the best it can with double. So I think up to about 52 bits, you'll be exact, and then after that, it'll start to become an approximation. MBBI, MBBOs are used for enumeration values, enumerations up to 16 values. We're not going to use the fan out, but a fan out is effectively a record that effectively has 17 forward links, whereas the F link and 16 others. Older versions of EPICS, it only has 7 links. That's semi-useful. We're talking about the calc and the calc out. The sequence record, that allows you to run a sequence of reading and writing from up to 16 PVs or from 16 constants to 16 PVs. And you can specify a delay between each action, so it defines a sequence. And I mentioned events. The event record can be used to declare an event, so that's kind of useful. And there's quite a few more.
Sorry, Andy, what do you, when you refer to an event, kind of like an event in the sense of, I know like in the Windows environment, you have the event messenger and handler and everything, so as you can action something.
Yeah, so and if, in this sense, an event is it has an event name. You can declare it, and it's only applicable within one IOC. So events don't transition between IOCs. You can declare the event. Either a device driver can declare an event, or the event record can declare an event. Then any record whose processing mode is set to event and whose event name matches the event will process.
Oh, so it's more like a synchronization kind of thing.
Yeah, you can think of it as synchronization. Rather, if you have 100 records that need to process for some reason, rather than having 100 records F-linking from one to the next to the next to the next, or doing lots of fan-out records, you can just say, I'll declare a specific event and then get these records to be triggered by the event.
Okay.
I've used it in a few places. It can be useful. Anyway, getting back to the exercise. Has everyone had a crack at the database? Yep. Okay. Okay, like before, we've got to call up the database in our make file. We will crib it from here. Database 2. Let's save that. Close that. And like this morning's exercise, we'll go up to the top, hit make, and we should be good to go. How are we doing for time, Androsh?
10 minutes.
Okay. I think we'll use the pre-prepared UI file for this because we're running out of time. So it's made, do the ll bin Linux, and there's our executable. Go to the boot directory, change the permission, and we can then load the database record. And if I get this right, we can cut and paste. Save. No errors on loading the database. Woohoo!
Doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't. That's always something worth doing with a database before you deploy it. Check there's no unexpected errors. And like before, we can do DBL, and we can see we've got 3 records. I can do DBNR, and we can see we have 1 analog output record and 3 calc records. I don't think we've really got time to, I don't know what people want to do. We could either skip defining the, we can either skip trying to define the UI file and just go with the one that I've predefined, or I can spend time on that, but then we might not have time for the mini project. I'm happy to go either way.
Unfortunately, I can't create a poll here.
Can't create a fault?
No, a poll to get together people.
Okay.
I would say, since this is EPICS training, maybe focus on EPICS
Rather than the GUI?
rather than on the GUI.
Okay, I will.
And if there is a wish, we can organize a GUI training.
Alrighty, so here's one I prepared earlier. So get UI 2. And then we can run QE GUI UI2. And there it is running. On the UI file, we've got three PVs, 4 PVs. There's Rec 1, Rec 2, Rec 3, and Rec 4. And if you look at this one here, that's the one that should be counting up on its own every 10 seconds. Because it's counting up on its own, this record is doing a CP, so it's monitoring this record and processing, and that in turn is forcing record 5, this record, to process, because we had the PP. Now, if I set this to 1.2, oh, really? I didn't set the precision to anything, so it's got a default precision of 0, and that's why it's not displaying the 1.2. Okay, well, there you go. But I can write a value, 22, and by creating a large enough value, well, one, remember I set the drive height to 200, so even though I wrote 222 to this record, this record was truncated at 200. And likewise, if I try and do a negative number, it's limited to 0. Okay, is everyone getting something vaguely like that? kind of understanding what's going on or not understanding what's going on?
I think I might have stuffed up something in my database file.
Errors loading?
No, it doesn't give me any errors, but when I do the DBL, I don't get any anything listing out.
Oh yeah, you should uncomment. Did you uncomment that or include the correct file?
I'm hoping I did in the ST file.
Yes. In the st.command file, you should have ended up with something that looks like this.
Yeah, I think there's. Ah, hang on. You're right. I haven't taken out the comment. Idiot.
Yep.
IT did not the.
And the worst thing about that is there'd be no error because it's a comment. At least even the bad errors reports are better than no error reports. Okay.
Break?
We've got 6 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll
If you want to get started on the next one, or
no, well, let's sit here a few minutes. If anyone's questions, anyone's not working, anyone's got some issues, they can't get anything to work or it doesn't make sense.
Andy, sorry. Can we look at the because I haven't seen a UI file before? Can we have a look at the UI file behind this?
Yeah, we can. We can have a quick look. So let's.
And how you put them together. So what is the process to create a UI file?
That's in the slides, and I was going to go through that, but I'm kind of running out of time. But I'm happy to, show you quickly at least. Anyway, Control Z. So the tool we use is Designer. Maybe not going to use up the whole screen. And I'm happy to talk through the break if people are a little bit. We select the top level widget, which we normally go with widget, and we go create. It creates a form. On the left-hand side, we get a list of all the available widgets, and on the right-hand side, we get a widget hierarchy and a property menu for each widget. We get some other stuff that I don't use much, so I just tend to get rid of it. And then for QE label, if we find QE label, which is the thing that we use to display regular text, it's in the QE monitors, it's a QE label. I can drop the label on the form. I can find you get used to it. All our widgets, or most of our widgets, have a property called variable, which is the PV name. So I'll go exercise 2 rec 1. I think that's right. And now this widget is now linked with. And in fact, it's even live within Designer, but without the alarm handling. So there you go. Now I'm going to save this. I'm going to save it as ex2.ui. Save. Now I could do the others, and like same as most things, I can copy and paste, so I don't have to do everything again. Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I think it's just a bit here.
Paste And for this one, it copies and pastes the name, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to change that to 2. I'm going to change this one to, oh, you bastard. What do wrong with that? Lift number 2. So that's done the 4 labels, and just quickly do the other one. Let's save that. The other one I used was the line edit. So again, you find the line edit widget, which is under controls. You find the PV you want to write to. You find the variable property, and there you go. Save. So I can close that. And for QE GUI, I'm going to close that. And I'm going to go. There we have it. So that's it in a nutshell, Ishmael. I'm more than happy to go over in detail at a later date.
No, that was enough. I mean, that was enough. Very well. Thank you.
And Andy, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure, Nada.
Is there any way to auto-generate those UI files out of CSPS?
Not the UI file. Oh, no, not these UI files. What we can auto-generate out of CSPS is beyond the scope of this training. But what we can automate, one of the things we can do with a UI file with QE, what you can do with EPICS QT is in a UI file, you can create there's a special widget which will load another UI file. And so if you have CSPS might say we have 3 vacuum gauges, and we can create a UI file that says load 3 copies of the vacuum gauge UI file. But what it can't do is generate the vacuum gauge UI file. But it can load 3 copies and parameterize them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can again go over the details later. But it's our break time.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a coffee or something, and I'll be around. I'm happy to answer questions while we're waiting for the afternoon session, which is just half an hour.
The last one?
Yeah.
Well, yes, I think that was the idea, but
Okay.
we'll see how we go.
Okay, I'm happy to stick around for a bit, yes, if other people are. In fact, I'll have a tea. I've had far too much coffee today. Okay. Again, we could look at, if we're interested, we could look at the properties. Okay.
Sorry, Andy, where was the user interface again for that one?
And he's left, but if you want to start the application to create user interfaces, is that what you're talking about?
Oh, he had the one just to sort of play around, the one which is the QE GUI. You know, either one, so I can just I finally got my PVs working, so I just wanted to have a play.
going on here?
Exercise 2.ie UE.
UI, yeah, but you have to first run the get UI space 2 to get, and that will copy that file to your current directory.
Yeah.
Okay, and now if you run QE GUI, well, the command that I have currently on the terminal, QE GUI exercise 2 UI, or UI, I don't know what it's called nowadays.
So it's 2. Yep, beautiful. Thanks, mate.
Good. I'm gonna grab a tea as well, so see you in a few minutes.
Hey there. Sorry to be.
No problem.
I'm not. It's been breaking my head for a little bit since I've been running the running the app for a little bit, and I've just been wondering, when my app restarts itself essentially because it reaches the high, which I've set at 1000.
Yeah.
So it loops, right? It goes back into a loop, and
Yeah.
it does the calculation again. But when it does that reset, it is saying that I think rec 2 becomes a 1. However, I don't know, it's just in my, I don't know whether my math is wrong or whatever, but I'm just like thinking, if rec 2 and rec 3 should be 0 plus 1 in brackets modulo 0, and rec 3 is also 0 modulo 0, shouldn't modulo 0 be undefined? In which case, why does it become?
Oh, no, it shouldn't be modulo 0. It should be. What I had for this one, I could examine the properties for rec 2. So I had. Oh, it might be easier. So I had input D, which is itself. Input I, which I had was 10, and I said D, which is itself plus 1 modulo 10, is effectively what that's saying, as opposed to modulo 0. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And for this, for the third one, which is this one, I had A plus B modulo C, which is A itself plus 100 modulo 1000. So that this one itself should be counting up in steps of 100. In fact, I could plot that in the strip chart with a bit of luck, and we should see that over time. If I do auto scale, that was an example of the hopper lopper. I defined the hopper and lopper of this record to be 0 and 1000. So when I said auto scale, the strip chart knows this needs to go between 0 and 1000. And so there you can see it's just counting up in steps of, I suppose I can display that one, and I can display this one, and I can display that one. Oh, well. Of course, this one's counting up 0 to 10. Which one's that? Number 2, probably go 0 to 10. So probably can't see it on this screen, but it is. It should. If we don't enter any values, then 2 and 4 should increment at the same time, essentially. Certainly for the synchrotron folk, I'm taking a long weekend, but I'll be around Wednesday, so if you have any questions, I will be in on Wednesday, so you can come and find me, ask a question.
Okay, that's terribly helpful. It's all good. I think I'm just confused with maths right now.
Yeah, sorry, Andy, can you go to that record 2 again? Sorry, just your.
The PV properties?
If you've got the actual database file, just
Oh yeah, sure.
mine's not counting. I just wanted to see if what I've done.
ZBG. So record 2, I used input D and I just because I could rather than A and B. And the modulo value, I made input I 10.
Oh, hang on, I see what I've done. I've been caught out by the capital letter, capital R instead of the lowercase r when I've got record 2.
Yes, and it's case sensitive, and if you get the input record wrong, your record probably went into the alarm state, invalid, and
it went white. That's why I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah, white's in EPICS framework, EPICS Qt framework, but the default invalid color is white.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, then, Andy.
No problem. Let's give a bit more flexibility there. File. Save. We've edited the database file, so we have to do a remake. And then if I can find my other terminal, let's close that. Restart the IOC. And just for, these should eventually grey out. That's, well, that's disappointing. So now we've got 3 decimal places on this record here, so now I can start doing more fun stuff. 2, 3, 4, 5. I was going to show you how to use a push button that can write a fixed value to the a record, and that was going to be useful in the next exercise. I might quickly show you that at the beginning of the next session after the coffee break, tea break. Are you presenting tomorrow at all?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I can sit back and relax. I'll heckle. I'll be in the
Please don't
audience, heckling, asking questions about the CSPs.
Please don't. That's it.
Okay.
Andrew, Andy, are you on mute?
Yeah? Did you have a question? No? No. Oh, we're just bullshitting.
So I'm recording.
Oh.
But I have, that's no, that's
Oh,
not what I had.
I forgot that. Better not use any naughty words.
But I have my laptop on mute.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if I'm recording any audio.
Okay. Oh well.
I just kept on recording. It's going to be a lot of. Okay.
Cracking, eh?
Sorry, Andy, what was the thing to run the application for building the displays again?
Designer is the command.
Designer.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Seen this, noticed this one before.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it means.
MCV address. RSV.
So the R server. I think the Q server is the PV access server. I think the R server is the channel access server. Might be something to do with this, the ASCII environment, don't know. I was going to show you that other colour while we're waiting. Yeah, SR. Tells you this was the one I was talking about, Andrew. The CASR command, channel access server. It's telling us here's a client, localhost, and it's looking at these PVs.
Okay.
Rec 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and that's looking at Rec 1, and that's looking at Rec 1. So that could sometimes useful. Okay. 2 minutes, 2 minutes.
Yeah, okay. Hopefully everybody's back. In the chat, I put in a link to the feedback survey for this training. So if you could please complete that, We would really appreciate to get some feedback on it because we'll probably have to run this again. It would be good if we could improve it a bit. So I think that's it. If we don't get, yeah, we'll see how we get with the survey anyway. Andy?
Yep. Okay. Okay, this last session, we've got technically half an hour. I'm happy to stay on a little bit. I was going to go through graphical user interfaces, but we're kind of running out of time. So I'm going to skip this little bit. There were a lot of slides about how to create it. You can look at the slides yourself and certainly try it yourself with the exercises we've done. I think there's enough on the slides to basically get you going. There's creating, saving, wherever you save it, shows you where the EPICS widgets are, shows you how to drag and drop onto a form, shows you about the variable is the key property you need to worry about, the variable name. Everything else can pretty much be left as the default. For the buttons we have, you can set a nice text on the button so it says something meaningful. On this button, we set the text, or I was going to set the text to 350, and the click text, which is the value written to the PV, I set to 350. Anyway, and then lastly, this is how you run the GUI. QE GUI is the name of our display manager. And then you can give it a number of UI files, more than one. If you give it none, it'll open up a dialog and ask you to find a UI file. And here's the one I prepared earlier that we've already seen. So the last exercise is to do a little mini project. We can just focus on the EPICS database. I've got a pre-prepared UI file that we can use, or you can use to do this. The idea is to provide a conference countdown timer. And as I said, I did this for real at our EPICS collaboration meeting. So you want to create an EPICS database that counts down from some predefined value to 0. You want to provide 3 records that provide the hours, the minutes, the seconds that show the countdown. The records will enter the minor alarm state at 60 seconds left and the major alarm state at 5 seconds left. And on the GUI, when that happens, the background will go yellow at 60 seconds and red at 5 seconds. We'll have a PV to start things off, and the duration of the time is set by writing a value to that start. So if you want it to run for 3 minutes, you can write 180. If you want it for 2 hours, you write 7,200. I've got a GUI already, and on the GUI, there are 2 start buttons that start a short talk, which I think was 2 minutes, and a long talk, which is 30 minutes. You don't have to worry about the GUI, but you definitely have a crack at the database. Some hints, and there's some exercise notes as well with the hints. So for the count, first I should say I think we've just about covered everything you need to do this. For the countdown timer, we can have a record that counts down, scans it once a second and counts down. We want the countdown to stop at 0, so perhaps you could use the max function, or you could use the test whether the input A is greater than 0 and use the ternary function. You can define the alarm thresholds, and for we haven't done those, but they're similar to the high ones. So there's the low and the low, and the low threshold is LOW, and the low is LOLO. It's not some British comedy show either, for those who remember. So use 3 calc records for the hours, minutes, and seconds. We can use the MS qualifier so that these go into the minor or the major alarm state as the countdown does. So they all go yellow together, all go red together. I suggest your calculations make use of the remainder operator and the floor function. And the floor function rounds down to the nearest whole integer value. And then we want a record to start, a start talk record. And this could be an analog out or a long out. And we'll use the out field of this record to write a value to the timer record. We haven't really done that, but on one of these countdown records, if you, let's say it's happily counting down from 20, 19, 18, 17, stops at 0. If you write the value 180 to it, next time it processes, it will start from 180, 179, 178. So that's kind of good. Hint 2, to use the pre-prepared UI file, do use these names for your records. I think they're in the hint file, and I can leave this, I can bring these slides up as we go, as you go through the exercise. And hint 3, well, you're not going to design the form, so we'll skip that. But you can use get UI3 to get the exercise 3 UI file and use QGUI to run it. There's help notes by typing EX notes 3, and I'll do that anyway. And to get like a pre-prepared answer, if you do exercise notes 3B, you'll get like a pre-prepared database, which if you don't finish off today, you can certainly look at and run with that. And that's essentially it. And we'll go over these URLs at the end of the talk. So there you go. Any questions?
Sorry, Andy, where was this presentation going to be stored again so we can access it?
I think it's on the website.
It's not.
Oh, it's on the Indico page, is it?
No,
it is not yet.
Yet, it will be.
Good, okay.
And or if nothing else, I can email you a copy eventually. Next Wednesday, at the earliest. There's also a copy of the slides in the folder. Now, I haven't talked about it, but you've got, from this environment, you've got full access to the internet. So if you've got a Dropbox, you could take the slides and drop them in your Dropbox. Or if you've got access to webmail, you could mail a copy to yourself. I'll show you where they are, and I'll show you the hints. Okay, I'm gonna escape this. Let's bring up this full screen. Oh, I didn't mean that. Have I lost it? Oh no! Okay. What have I done? Have I closed the meeting?
Sorry? No.
Oh, it's still there, is it?
We're still here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you just closed the your ASCII stuff.
I've closed my ASCII, so let's
Yeah.
restart that, bugger. Okay. Go away. I wish it would just... I should have made a bookmark, eh? Yeah, it is getting warm. And it's roasting outside lunchtime. So supper's here. Sign in. Done to save. So my session is still here, which is nice. Let's maximize the screen. So if you go to the EPICS, this folder where I've put all the material for and all the libraries, etc. I'm using for this training. In the slides folder, there is a copy of the slides there as well, if that's any use. So you could get them there and mail them to yourself possibly, if you've got access to webmail. But yeah, they will be on the Indigo site, and I can mail them to you if needs be. So, as before, there's some notes to help you go through the exercise. Some of it should be familiar by now. And the main gist of it is the guidance for setting up the database, which is basically what this exercise is all about. This pretty much covers what the slides say. I'm happy to answer questions or bring up the slides. And if you get really stuck, you can look at the 3B for the cheat sheet, which I mean you can do, but it might be worthwhile having a crack at it yourself. And the GUI is, you can do get UI3 to get the pre-prepared GUI, and you can launch that now. QE GUI, you can have a look at that. Of course, here's the one I prepared. So we've got the three fields here. We've got the start short talk and start stop talk, and you can see currently they're disconnected, so they won't do anything. But they're raring to go once I've done the database, or raring to go once you've done your database. So this is where you get to see how much attention you've been paying to me during the day. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to field questions during this exercise. And we'll let it run to about past, and then we'll have a quick Q&A session and then call it a day.
Okay.
Oh, that should be IOC framework. So skip the design a bit and just go straight to get UI3. Unless you finish early, you're bored, you can want to have a crack. Definitely have a go at it, either today or later on. But I don't think we'll have time.
The slides are now on the website. Sorry that this took so long. If you go on the timetable for the first day, you'll see a little paperclip in the first session on the top right side. So you can click on that and download.
Can I ask something I just kept on skipping through before whenever you do the second make base with the -I?
Yes.
I'd ask you about what's the application should the IOC boot? And it has default use of IOC name, even if not listed above, application name. And it's kind of got a prompt there, but I just keep on hitting enter beforehand and everything works.
And if there's only one name, I think enter will do the trick.
Yeah.
But if there's more than one, then, well, I'm not sure.
I was wondering if there's something, yeah,
Oh, there you good question, Dave. And when there's only one, make base app minus T IOC X, sorry, make base app Y, base X minus I. What happens if I hit enter? I don't know. Usually you'd enter X or Y in this case, but if there's a choice.
Or I can actually go with X because that's what you put in the
Yes.
command.
Tree. What happened?
or is the earth-shattering kaboom?
It kind of created an X one by the look of it, because the command was X here. I think it's just chosen that as default, which might be sensible. CD IOC boot. Yeah, it's gone with X by default. CD. It's chosen the name X. Okay, so by default it seems to be doing sensible stuff. So yeah, maybe just hit return there.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So especially when there's one.
Yep.
In fact, that's what I did wrong this morning with the first exercise. I typed it in rather than just copying it, going with the default, and I mistyped it.
Ah, right.
Which is why I had that extra C or whatever it was in the name. Okay.
You can maybe bring up the slides back so that people see what the record should be called.
Ah, yes, indeed. Escape. Slides. Full screen. Yes. Now, I'm being particularly consistent with my names here. Some of them in exercise. These are EX3. It's oh, I think that should have a colon in it. Oh, yeah. Is anyone finished? Who's the keen? Who's the bright one?
Thinking about putting in a pause button now, just for the heck of it.
Oh well. Oh, very good. Yes, pause. I'm not sure. Well, yeah, I know how to do a pause. Yes.
You'd have to stop.
We haven't talked about disabling records, but that could be done. So you could.
Yes, that would be one way of doing it, or you put in something that affects the calc so that it.
Yeah, you could change. We haven't talked about it much, but on a calc record, you have the 12 input fields, input A to input L, but there's also 12 fields A to L that are also accessible by channel access. And if your calc record was, input A minus B, where B was nominally 1, you could write to B and change it to 0.
Yeah. You can use does the calc record have the disv field?
Yeah. All records have the dis A and the dis V, so you could disable it, or you could just write to the calc field itself and just change the expression from whatever it is to a fixed number.
That's what I was thinking of doing, but I like the dis A dis V solution.
Yeah, dis A dis V is probably the way to go, or changing the increment. Or changing the record from scanning once a second to passive.
And I should be able to do that just by dropping another push button onto the GUI that
Yeah, you could do that, or two, one to stop it, one to start it again.
talks directly to just A and just V. You don't need another record in that case.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing you could do for testing, you might say, well, this is boring, waiting for it. You could temporarily change the scan field to scan it, twice a second or 5 times a second, and the countdown would go faster. But that might be a good way, sensible way of testing it without waiting for paint to dry.
Oh, by the way, just in case, it shouldn't be a mass problem, but the slides for this EPICS training has been put on the 28th of October instead of today, the 29th. So I think the controls meeting material has been put on the 29th, and then the EPICS training materials have been put on the 28th on Interco.
And it's the 29th today, okay.
Yes, I think it's just both shifted one day earlier, but just in case people accidentally download the wrong material for the day.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Date wrong?
I'm not sure I quite got that. What was?
On Interco, to download the materials, you can kind of select the date to download it. So I think the materials probably sorted by date, but instead of the 29th and the 30th, it's the 28th and the 29th. So the EPICS training material is on the 28th, and all the controls meeting stuff, which I assume is for tomorrow, is now on the 29th.
Hang on, I'm gonna share my screen. I don't think we're looking at the same thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, there's a lot going on here. There we go. Okay.
Yep. If you go up to download materials, top left.
I've never used this before. Is it?
Oh, yeah, it's the little box icon with the arrow. Yes, that's the one.
Ah,
yep.
This one. Okay.
That's the one. And then if you can download package, which is all the materials, or
Okay.
if you select the specific days, or just down where it says include, underneath where it says include, and you mark specific days.
Yeah.
You'll see it says 28th and 29th. Yes. So
yeah, I have no idea, because if you look at here,
materials are all in there. But the 29th has all the materials for
tomorrow.
I assume tomorrow's controls
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah, no idea. If I'd have to guess, maybe something to do with time zones, but I don't know.
All good. Just wanted to make sure in case it ended up being public somewhere.
Well, I stopped sharing it. But hang on.
Yep.
I usually just go to to the timetable here and then go one by one. But so you have show materials here.
Oh, okay. I didn't actually notice that one.
Yeah, and then you can go. Yeah, just the blocks you're interested in.
Oh, great, awesome. No worries. Yeah, I just thought I'd
Yeah, no, thanks for
bring it
that.
up in case there was something crazy going on, and I don't know how public the controls meeting material is meant to be. So I was like, just in case, I'll let you guys know.
Thanks.
So Andy, just to I'm checking. So timer is the PV, which value will be pushed through for what the time is going to be set for, and then I'll start counting down from that.
Yeah, so timer will be set to 3 minutes or 180 seconds or whatever.
Whatever you give it in seconds.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it'll count down, and then we'll have 3 calc records which will kind of work out the number of seconds, the number of minutes, and the number of hours.
Okay, so
and of course, seconds is number of seconds, the total number of seconds, remainder 60 maybe.
So would that be an analog input?
This will have to be a calc.
Oh, so it has to be a calc, sorry.
Yeah, they all have to be calc. Apart from this guy, the rest have to be calcs because they all have to do calculations. This has to do the countdown. Timer does the basic countdown. Seconds has to do a calculation to extract the
so timer
from the timer. The minutes has to extract the minutes from the timer.
Yeah.
And the hours has to extract the hours from the timer.
Gotcha. Okay, and start though, is that just some kind of digital or event or something?
And start is we use the out field from, so you write 180 to start, and it's an analog out or a long out, and its outfield should point to timer. So when you write 180 to start, it actually writes that value to timer. The timer will automatically go back up to 180 or 200 or whatever you set your timer to.
So that one's analog out. Okay.
And that could be an analog out or a long out, since we're dealing with a whole number of seconds.
Right. Okay. I'll have to remember how you actually had the out go out to something else.
Yeah. Okay. EX3. Let's hit. How are we doing for time? File, save, and then.
Can you try saving now with Control S?
Yeah. Control S. Oh,
see, it's fine. I don't know what happened before. I got confused.
I wonder because it wasn't full screen. It got confused between the environment and the environment. The environment's in. Here's one I prepared earlier. So there you go, Dave, on this last record, the long out uses the outfield to point to the timer. So when we write 180 to this will write 180.
Oh, okay, so out, sorry, okay, yeah, I wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
most of the, by convention, I think more than anything else, all the main records that talk to things have an input field or an output field, which is called INP or OUT, depending which way around it is.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And yeah, so you can use this. So when you write to this record, it'll write the value, whatever write, or if you force it to process whatever value it currently has, it will write to the timer.
Yeah, that makes sense because something when it gets
start counting down. Okay, let's do file.
How do you make it stop counting when it gets to 0?
Well, this is where you can do the max function.
Where do you find out about these functions? Like the max?
Oh, that's in the record reference manual.
Okay.
Yeah, and or you can use the ternary or whatever it's called, where you, like you have in C, you can have a condition. If A is greater than 0, then we can do A minus 1. And if A is less than or equal to 0, we can just stop at 0. So it'll never go below 0.
Right.
Well, technically, if someone sets it to a half, then it'll go to minus a half and then 0. But there you go. And we're sort of working in whole seconds. Here's the floor function. Floor A divided by 60 gives us the minutes, and then modulo remainder 60 will give us the number of minutes in a second. And lastly, we can calculate the hours, which is floor A divided by 360. Of course, if we wanted to worry about days and months or weeks, we could worry about that, but we're not going to today.
Right, no, so okay, so there's a little bit more to solve in this one than what was just in the notes.
Oh yeah, well that's part of the exercise.
No, that's good. Throwing down the gauntlet.
Yeah. But the cheat note, if you do exercise notes 3B, sorry, exercise notes 3B, that will bring up a working database, so you can see other things what I've done. Yes.
Yeah, not a problem. Okay, now I'll try to piece it together from what I can first. Thanks, mate.
No problem. I'm going to finish this. Yes. I don't know why the template. Maybe it's something Perl can't do it. And it's a little bit of a nuisance. It understands DVD files and st.command files, which is nice. Okay, DB NR. Is that running? Sometimes doesn't connect as fast as you would like it to.
Yeah, I think that's what Dave said. Terry said before that he had to restart the IOC.
Yeah.
But I think you can either restart the IOC or just wait.
Yeah, it'll eventually reconnect. So when a PV disconnects, it will eventually reconnect, but sometimes it takes a while. Anyway, I'm going to start my long talk of 1 hour, 29 minutes, and yes, there you go. Now, when I did this on the laptop, I made it really big so the speakers could see. And I think our maximum talk was 20 minutes, but yeah. Or if you want to just get bored with the talk, you can just hit short talk, and suddenly they're down to 2 minutes and counting.
It's kind of ominous. Just got a text message from one of the insurance companies saying that my suburbs high probability of having hail damage.
Oh, good then. Not good then. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we had a huge hailstorm. Oh, it must be years ago in Melbourne, maybe 8 years ago. And I know a friend of mine, a car was written off because of the damage, but then she could buy it back from the insurance company for a reasonable price.
Yeah.
And I mean, it looked ugly, but it was basically mechanically sound.
It's aerodynamic as a golf ball. That's all right.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Basically, all of us here at ANU lost our cars in January, middle of the year.
Was that the fires?
Middle of January, yeah.
Due to the fires?
No, the hail.
Oh, the hail, okay.
Yeah, yep. Came through right here, yeah.
Oh, good. So whose suburb was it that got a warning for hail just then?
Hammondville in Sydney.
Okay. I was going to rush out and put my car away, but I don't have to now.
No. How did your pause go, Terry? Did you get that?
It went very well, thank you. That the use of DisV or DisA matching DisV is perfect.
Yeah, okay, that's
good. But one thing, if you've got the time to fiddle around with it, look, go into Designer and open up that UI. Show us how you would fix the layout on that, because at the moment you've got a layout that's been set manually.
Yeah.
I always struggle to use the horizontal spaces, the vertical spaces.
Oh, that is a whole lesson in its own, Terry.
Yeah, I know. If you've got a moment to touch on it, it'd be nice.
I'll touch on it because while other people are still working on the exercise, so let's go to CD. Where did I put it in? Lineup. Yeah, I struggle a bit with the layouts.
I mean, when it works nicely, but I spend so much time absolutely messing it up and then having to Control Z out of that last change, try something else, try something else.
And what I generally do is, rather than use layouts, well, first of all, I'm going to go to icon view just because it's a little bit more compressed. I usually drop things in a frame.
Yeah. Yeah, so
you can make
that was a frame, not a what's the alternative? Not a widget.
It could be any container. Oh, sorry. I usually start off with a frame because I can see it. And in the end of the day, if I want to make it invisible, you can just turn off the frame edges.
Oh, yeah,
so,
okay.
So it's not much different to a widget.
Yeah.
And then
select everything, drop it in there.
Select everything, drop it in there. That's a good start.
Don't forget your seconds and minutes and things label.
I'll skip that.
Okay.
That was just a bit of fluff. Then we go layout horizontally. That's sort of okay. But then you might say, then there's all sorts of options.
I guess the thing that gets me the most is once I've done that, and then I wanted to add something else into that same box. That's where it all goes to heck.
Okay, why aren't I allowed to save? Let's hit save.
You probably shouldn't use the sign.
Oh, it's that one. Save. Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, you can add extra things to the box. So if I want to add an extra QE label, if I can find one, which is this guy, you can drag it in and you see that little blue bar?
Yeah.
That's where it'll go. So you can either put it there or there or there or there, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And it does it that way because it has a layout specified, yes?
Yeah, and because it's got a layout, it'll merge it in with the current layout.
Right.
On layouts, I think they have a lot of advantage, but they are a bit fiddly. But I certainly like using the frame rather than the layout things. I just find it easier to work with. But I think they're effectively equivalent.
Okay. So you'd always recommending having a subframe in fit to group things, just to make it easier to control the subcomponents.
Yeah, and if it's in a frame, maybe they're related objects. So that's why you would have the the frame edge, and you can play with that. Or if you don't want an edge and you want it just to be essentially invisible to the user, I mean, you can see it in design. At runtime, you wouldn't be able to see that frame, and it really doesn't cost much. But often, I think with a frame, you do want to show it to the user as a group of stuff. Not always, but often, yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think the frame outline is a good thing to leave there.
Yeah, and or if you change your mind later, you didn't want a visible frame, but then you decide you do want a visible frame, then it's there, raring to go. Yes. Yeah. Let's start the long talk again. And just to reiterate, these PVs are kind of quasi-live within Designer, which can be useful, can be disconcerting, yes. And then for these spaces, we could set a minimum maximum size if we wanted to, or we could fiddle with the stretch. Personally, I'd set a maximum size or a maximum width. But depends what you're doing, yes. Are you fiddled with min max widths, Terry?
Yeah, I have. In fact, that's usually the way I end up doing it because I can control it.
And there's these preferences I really haven't got my head around. I just generally run with the default. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so.
Minimum size, maximum size. So we might want the maximum width to be, I don't know.
Here's another little question. Having changed a UI in Designer, and then saved it, you want to refresh an existing GUI that's running.
Yeah.
What I normally do is go File, Open Recent.
Yeah, you can File, Open Recent.
Is there a shortcut that doesn't cause you to have to do that?
Well, if you run GUI in edit mode, it'll automatically reload it, I think.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Which we didn't do, but I think that has issues that, if yes. So that's a possibility to use the -E. I'll give it a go now you've asked. File, exit. Where's E? There it is, and I think in then edit mode there is a refresh current form.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Yes, and maybe that'd be nice if that was available in all modes.
Yeah.
You do have options to open form in Designer and edit it on the fly, or or just open Designer in general. So yeah.
Yeah, you have to run it in the first place with the -X though.
Yes, or the -E.
Sorry.
E for edit mode. So we don't normally have to do that, but it's there. So I've shrunk that. Now go Tools, refresh current form, and there it's refreshed. So maybe during development mode, running this with -E is good, but you probably wouldn't do it for real necessarily.
Generally, no.
Hotkeys to that.
We could add hotkeys. It might be handy, yes.
F5.
Yeah, F5, yes. Well, F5 is probably a good one for hotkey. We haven't done much with hotkeys, I think, but potentially we could do some hotkeys.
We want to be a bit careful though. The last thing we want is for some user to ring us up in the middle of the night saying, my GUI doesn't work the way I expected it
Yes,
to.
yeah, you've got to be careful.
Because they've customized it.
Yes. There are some hot buttons just for you to, for the folks who use QE GUI. You double click, we'll open it up in the strip chart. And that's double middle click, and double regular click will open up PV properties.
I didn't know that. That's
double middle click.
Oh, okay.
Single middle click doesn't, but a double middle click will open it up in the strip chart.
Oh.
Well, there you go.
Indeed. That's brilliant. Thank you. That's really good.
So sort of 15 minutes over. I think we'll maybe just wrap up now. Does anyone, how far did people get? Are they still struggling? Are they finished? Are they want to ask some questions, or do we just want to have 15 minutes of general question and answer? I'm happy to do whatever people would like to do. Or they just want to carry on working on the exercise. Or do they want to go home?
They've already gone home.
Yeah. Well, in that case, for you, Terry, it's almost beer o'clock for you.
It is. I was going to ask you, how long will these ASCII thingies be available? I think we've had this discussion, haven't we, forever?
Yeah, till ASCII's decommissioned, probably.
Right, infinite time. Okay, great, brilliant.
There's certainly more than I hope, it should be quite a while, so definitely they'll be around.
So I'll have to.
Yeah, but this particular session that you're using today will be deleted on. There's a countdown somewhere. Yeah, there you go.
Yes, but you can
3 days, 20 hours.
But you can just restart it, and all the stuff you've done is still there. You'll have to reset your screen resolution if that's what you did, but all the files you've created, your exercise files, will still be there, and you won't have to run that environment setup script like we did first thing in the morning.
Okay.
So the home stays.
Yeah, the home stays. Yeah, so all the files and everything we've done stays put.
Brilliant. Well, I have to say a great big thank you for the people who set up the environment, and for you two guys for creating and running the talk. It's been brilliant.
Good. I hope you got something out of it, Terry.
I did. I've learned lots of new things after 12 years.
Okay. Well, maybe it is worthwhile doing these or getting. I suppose Steve Hunt's retired now. I mean, I know Richard used to do quite a few. Lou didn't do too many training like this. Yeah, I think he had a bad experience, and then on his first week, and he said, "Oh, bloody training, not doing that."
We probably gave him too hard a time.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to. It is work to prepare it, whereas perhaps third-party trainers have it already prepared, and they'll definitely bring a different aspect to it. So I think there's a bit of merit in. I'm happy to do them, but there is a bit of merit in getting a third-party trainer in.
I think it's a two-sided, two-edged sword, if you like. One, when you guys do it, it's customized to at least what I'm used to. When somebody else does it, it's not. Yeah. On the other hand, when someone else does it, you get fresh input.
Yeah, and certainly more detailed training might be more focused on our environment, like the bundle and how we interact with Perforce.
I could say definitely yes.
and I know we've done a bit on platform management, and maybe we should rerun that again. So we've got some new people in Alan's team and in Andreas's team, so it might be worth us doing that platform management.
I'd love to see a workshop on Dockerizing EPICS and how to deal with it and that sort of.
Yeah, and I haven't really given it too much thought, but it would be interesting to. Could we Dockerize it, and could we Dockerize it and still leverage off the bundle?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you've done, you and Andres and others have done so much work in getting the bundle workable. It would be great to go that one step further and then put it in a container as well.
Yes, and effectively having a host there, then just deploying a container quite quickly that with minimal effort is bundleized, or maybe it's, I mean, you went to a certain extent with the pre-built templates, but maybe we could have a pre-built Docker thingy. And
sounds like a logical next step in the.
It does.
And I think there's issues, and probably not insurmountable, about. I know when Steve Moody. Yeah. Used Proxmox or whatever on his beamline, he had to create gateways in order for the IOCs on his cluster thing to be able to read and write to PVs because of the way the network went.
Yes, we definitely have network issues with Docker.
Yeah, with Docker, it'd be nice if the containers were on the beamline network in question, like any other IOC. Now, I've used containers on the machine, but didn't use Docker. They're just more straightforward. What's the term?
They were Linux containers, weren't they?
Yeah, just basic Linux containers. And once I figured out how to do the network bridging, they're all on the accelerator network, just like a regular IOC. I mean, you really wouldn't know the difference apart from the message of the day gives you a little clue.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right, so do we have any questions related to the training or the exercise, or should we wrap it up?
Or just in more general questions. We've got happy to chit chat for a little bit, but not too long.
I think that was really good. I mean, I'd really like to see more of these kind of little training courses. I know I probably started off kind of on the easier end, but definitely sort of got a little bit more challenging. So
it's hard to know quite what to do. Yes.
Yeah. But otherwise, no. A big thank you, guys, for putting this together.
No problem. And as we said, if you've got questions after the event or later on, happy to answer them if I can.
I was going to say, I think also by local kind of teams doing the training, hopefully it means that we kind of understand a little bit more about how you approach the various things. So that helps us with, both understanding with trying to, collaborate and learn off you a bit more as well too.
Yeah. And maybe we can do some other topics. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things we didn't talk about. Templates and substitution files would be good. The
That's right. We're still got to learn how to walk first, I think.
Yeah. We could spend half a day on the subroutine record and the A sub. That's a useful record to get your head around. State machines. When I started, we covered writing our own record, but that's probably not overly relevant. Perhaps more interesting would be focusing on device drivers, writing a basic device driver and focusing on the ASIN framework. Yeah, I could spend a few days on that easily. Okay, any other comments, questions?
Thank you for me. Like as a complete beginner to EPICS, I thought that was really, really interesting, really good. Really easy to follow. Like I literally, EPICS was being thrown around everywhere. And yeah, I hadn't really gotten the chance to get a good idea of what it was and what it did and all that sort of stuff. So this was really helpful. It was really good. Thank you for that.
Okay, I've got two things to say. Just one, the exercise was a bit of a furphy because for a label, if the units are in seconds, we do have a time format which does this automatically. So the exercise was a little contrived, but it was a achievable exercise given the training. But if you ever do use EPICS-QT, use the time format and it'll save you a whole bunch of hassle. And it can also do hours, minutes, days, seconds. It can do fractions of a second as well if you've got a precision of a second. Okay, and I'm going to just lastly, if I go back to the.
No, it's just, you just expanded. It was collapsed.
Let's go back to this then, and let's start that up. And on the last slide, we have some URLs that might be useful. So this is the original EPICS website, and if you do a Google, web search for EPICS, you'll probably find this. Lots of information there, how to download EPICS, build EPICS base. There's a chat group called Tech Talk. And even if you just subscribe to that, you'll get people asking questions and you see answers. People are very helpful. I used to follow it, especially when I was a newbie, and you pick up lots of ideas or get hints, or someone will ask a question, you think, I never thought of that, and that's how it works. The second one is the new EPICS website, hosted. Is that? Not sure where that's hosted, but I think Ralph looks after that. So there's a lot of information on there. That's the URL to the record reference manual I was talking about. That's definitely worth a read. If you're interested in EPICS QT, this is a reference to the GitHub web page, which gives you the documentation on EPICS QT. And happy to answer questions on that. And at the last EPICS collaboration meeting we held here, after that, Andras set up a EPICS chat channel. So you can go to that website and ask questions, and we keep an eye on it. Perhaps not as diligently as we should. And as I said, the slides are available here, but they're also on the Indigo website, which I didn't think to put the URL up here, but if you can't find it, we can help you find it or send you a copy.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining.
Indeed.
I just posted again a URL to Indigo website. We have another day of, this training was organized in the scope of controls meeting that we're holding, like a national controls meeting. So tomorrow there will be a day of presentations and talks about facilities in general and projects that we're working on, and a few more specific topics. So if anyone's interested in joining in, please do so. And yeah, you should be able to see the timetable on the link that I just posted. Yeah, if you can just fill in the survey. I think I'll send out an email with the link as well to everyone who joined today. So that would be really helpful. It's hard to nail it in terms of what people want from the training, as someone who's been doing it for so long, I think, Andy. So yeah, getting some feedback would be really good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope you all enjoyed. Thanks, Andras, for organising a lot of this and being the compere for today. And yeah, I hope you all got something out of it. Happy to answer questions. Maybe see some of you tomorrow at the ATF. I'm going to have a relaxing day now at the ATF tomorrow, where I don't have to do much other than heckle. So yeah, and then enjoy the long weekend.
Right.
Thanks, guys. That was very useful.
Okay, well, see you, David. See you, David.
Can I just quickly ask? So it's mainly EPICS built on the Linux is what you guys do at the synchrotron there. There's no other like Windows-based EPICS.
We have a few Windows-based IOCs. Still have one on the machine that we hope to get rid of soon. Most of what I said today applies to